Hello, hello,
Hello
welcome.
there.
I am
Thank you.
Martina, and I'm here with Christina,
Hello.
and we are your podcast hosts for Everyday Ordinary, Extraordinary Men. And here's our context. Most humans have a lot of preconceived notions and stereotypes about gender. For example, men are tough, silent, forceful, women are chatty, manipulative, you know, you name it. Now, in doing that, in holding on to these preconceived notions, we put people in a box and often forget to see beyond those labels. And if someone is not fitting the mold, we might call them a tomboy or a sissy. And those and similar labels often cause discord. So, what will the world look like where we go beyond our preconceived notions and understand that we are much more than our gender? That we humans are strong and soft and gentle and deep and powerful and tough and fierce and open, and
Hmm.
that qualities are not specific to a gender, that we all have all qualities available to express. What would the world look like where we all are free to be who we choose to be and express all of our emotions? When we allow ourselves to express the so-called masculine and feminine qualities within ourselves, we set ourselves free. And when we allow others to do the same, when we accept all of them, we create synergy, peace, and harmony. And today we're here with Judd. Judd, do you want to introduce yourself?
Well, yes, I'd love to. But first of all, I'm really blown away and appreciative of this opportunity, because both of you have been lifelong friends, but lifelong friends that for the most part I haven't spoken to overall in a lifetime. And I think that's one of the most important things to me is creating lifelong relationships and exceptional moments. A little bit about myself. I currently live in Central Oregon. It's one of the most beautiful places. I moved to the Pacific Northwest about 5 years ago from Philadelphia, and then previously I lived in New York City and a host of other places. Um, and I love living out in the West here. Uh, about 5 years ago, I had a unique opportunity to work with some dear friends and a group of investors. Goes back to creating lifelong relationships, and had the ability to create really a unique company, a company that builds luxury expedition truck campers that people take around the world. But it's never been about building campers for me. It's always been about, at the heart of what I believe in, creating extraordinary and life just experiences that are life altering. So I created this amazing company. I have since sold it and divested from it. It's doing some new things now, but over the last 30 years, I've been an executive coach, an entrepreneur, worked for many Fortune 500 companies across the globe. Did a lot of work in my earlier years in Africa and South America and Asia. And it was a unique opportunity to really just see how similar we all are, but yet how vastly different we see the world at any given moment. So it's been an interesting life, and a lot of backstory about how I got here and everything else. But I just find people and experiences and discovery probably one of the most important things, at least for me in my life. So a brief synopsis on me. And I've got older kids, all that kind of great stuff. And here I am living this kind of insane life in the Pacific Northwest, doing a lot of really cool outdoor things at this point.
Beautiful. And it's like life is like that, right? It's like we imagine it a straight line, it goes up and down and in between, and then there's the
Yes.
puddle in the middle, and you have
Yeah.
to swim through and to come out on the other side, and then there's the abyss that, it's like like the jump and find your wings on the way down and all of that, right? But one of the things that you said that I thought was so beautiful is that like the lifelong friends And it's like what I heard, it's like that lives in your heart. It's
Yeah.
not necessarily into interactions, although it's beautiful to have those interactions on a regular basis, but
Yeah.
it's like I like to say this is the I think of you and I smile.
Mm,
Right.
thank you.
It's like it's that feeling, and it's totally mutual for me. It's like um you were we were when we first came to the US a lifetime ago. That was in 97. It was in
Yes.
97. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness, it was in 97. That's where I met you. And you were my coach when we were working in this transformational company. And your support and your strength and your tenderness just helped me so beautifully and was so important because I had come with my husband and I didn't have a family, right? And it was just like the creating of my family. And you were
Well,
part of that. So thank you for that. I
you're
so appreciate you and I thank you for being here. So, Judd, if we really knew you, what would we know about you?
well, after a lot of thought over the years about who I am and what I value and what's important is I see myself as an experientialist. I've kind of even created over the last couple of years a tagline about creating life's exceptional moments or extraordinary moments, however you'd want to put it. Because I think the thing is that every day really is that kind of opportunity. And, I know it may sound kind of Pollyanna or, all happy and all that. And life is not always like that. Life, well, you get thrown into whatever life's presenting itself each and every day. Um, but we only have one life and we only have the moment that we have right now. And for myself and for many others, at times it seems like we're always trying to wait for those happy times or those great moments to occur, all that kind of, all those things to happen in the future that are going to be so magnificent. But all that we have is the moments that we have. So I think part of the name of the game for me is celebrating or appreciating at the very least, or tolerating sometimes just the moments of life. And I mean all of them. Kind of jumping around a little bit in the story, but for most of my life, I was blessed to take on some really cool things of um, working with people and traveling around the world and doing some really, really amazing things, getting to work throughout all of Africa and South America and parts of Asia. And um, nothing was free, so to speak. It was really some brutal at times and hard work and times I wanted to give it all up. But I loved having the life I have. And fast forward, life is never, it never stays. The one thing I know about life is that it's always changing. It never stays the same. It may seem like it's staying the same, but in the moment, but it's forever changing. And probably about, I don't know, 10, maybe 12 years ago, starting, was a set of a series of things that happened to me where I went out on my own, created my own company, did some really extraordinary things. I was getting my MBA and working full time in Africa, back and forth, and I got sick one day coming back from a trip from Africa and did all kinds of tests and everything else and, MRIs and CAT scans, and they couldn't find anything. And fast forward a year from that initial period, I was completing my MBA and about to take a trip to South America with my uh, cohort. And in the middle of it, the day before I was supposed to leave, I started to feel these same pains again coming on. Couldn't figure out what it was and all that. Doctors gave me some antibiotics and things like that and sent me on my way to South America for a couple of weeks. Coming back from that, I found out that I was really sick and that, candidly, I had cancer. And it was one of those life altering moments where, young family and trying to figure out the meaning of life and, how things were all going to turn out. But it was a moment to really be with what I couldn't be with in life, so to speak. Fast forwarding and trying to not make it into too much of a short script. I thought I got better, things happened, and I found out I had a series of other infections and illnesses and things like that. So, in all of that, I think the thing that I really learned is there was a whole identity I had, a whole world that I had, a whole group of relationships and connections that I thought were all there. And I was really able to see how a lot of people were there and a lot of people weren't there during that time period. Kind of surprisingly, who was and who wasn't. But it really gave me the opportunity to find out what was important to me and what I valued most. And what I valued most was this thing called life and love and relationships and creating these extraordinary experiences and the travel and the adventure. So I really got in touch with how precious life was in that very moment. Fast forwarding with the love and assistance of some great friends and professional colleagues, a group of actually a team of people that I was their executive coach for, came together and said that they were going to stand for me and be there for me. This is a group of old consulting clients, no matter what. And they became this like little coalition or this little force, so to speak. And through that period, emerged some incredible opportunities, to really see what's important to me and to reinvent myself in a way that took those values and those lessons of that experience and life, and to really hone in on what's important and what I wanted to create. And that's really having a sense that life is precious. It's a series of extraordinary moments, one by one by one, even those hospital moments that I was just expressing, as fearful and life-threatening they were, those were extraordinary in themselves. So I was able really to see that I've been in this, and we all are in this movie, so to speak, our own movie, our own film, and you only get that segment at that time and appreciate that time. And it's yours to create. It really is, because we think we're in the same set of conversations, have the same set of concerns and the same kind of issues, or we see things in the same way. And while as human beings, we do see many things in a similar way. And that's one of the beauties of bringing connection and belonging and finding out what's important is in our connections. But we really uniquely see the world, each and every one of us, in our own way. And to be able to get that you really are the author of your own life, the own creator of your own life, and that the only moment you have is now, and the only memories you can create are the ones that you create. So framing it in a way that brings out the best in you, or at least has some inner strength or compassion for your own humanity, is probably, I think, one of the most important things. So through all that lesson, I know I'm jumping around a little bit. I think the most important thing that I've learned is to have some humility and some compassion for myself, some self-love. Um, it's hard to fully embrace or love or appreciate. A little fly came in front of my face there. Um, Anything else if you can't be strong and have self-appreciation for your own humanity and what's inside of you, your own ickiness, your own greatness, your own self-expression, your own fears, to be able to own all of that and get that that's yours. If you don't like that story, okay, well, take a look at it really deeply and figure out if you want to look a different way. But the way that we view life is not, um, it's everything. It really is everything. Um, and our own relationship to ourself has everything to do with how we view life. So it's not like to have some Pollyanna kind of conversation and say, oh, I'm great and I'm this and I'm that, but just to, have some space and room for yourself. Given, and I think I learned this many years ago in one of the transformational things I did when looking at my relationship to my own family and mother and growing up, to have some compassion for your own humanity is everything. To have some grace that given everything that life has given you or put in front of you, that you've done the best you knew how. And if you knew how to do differently, you would. So, you did what you did and okay, get on with it and have some room for yourself. Forgive
Mm.
yourself. Um, and from that, I think anything else is really possible. Um, yeah, like that. And even in those like really embarrassing moments, to have to find some humor and joy and humility in those moments is everything. Many years ago, I was a very prominent restaurant executive, and there was one night where I had this very fancy ball, and we were short-staffed on the servers that were needed to produce this event. So I, in the spirit of wanting to help and jump in and everything, I said, I'll take out this big plate of trays out into a dining room. It was at one of a very fancy institution, uh, a very private, fancy institution. And I picked up this plate of about 12 dishes and things. They had the covers on them and all that. And I'm out there and I'm this restaurateur and I'm dressed in this suit. And I get out in the middle of the floor and there's something in the middle of the floor and the whole tray just went up in the air. And the food just came pouring down on me. And this very wealthy uh, philanthropist said, what happened to that young man? As I was sitting on the floor with all this food on top of me. So to even, it's funny all these years later, but to have some room and some grace for yourself, even in those humbling moments, I think is one of the secrets of life.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
many nuggets in there, Judd. So
Yeah, I
many.
jumped around a lot, but nevertheless,
No. So what I hear is this recurring theme of truly trusting the universe and reinventing yourself.
yes.
Um, so I'm curious, like, where did that come from at a young age? I mean, it sounds like this was a theme from when you were quite young.
Yeah, well, I've done a lot of deep dives over the years into the way that I think and the way that I kind of have constructed myself. And one of the central themes that's always been there has been this sense that anything is possible in a moment of time. And that just because something's one way one moment doesn't mean it'll be that way forever, or that it can't change, or there isn't that. And through all of that, having a sense of malleability and the ability to adapt and the ability to wonder and question the way that things are, to have some room to be in the discomfort of life. Um, gives you a lot more, I guess, strength. It's sort of like I think going to the gym in a lot of ways that you build strength by life's moments, or you don't,
Right.
you don't. But for me, it's been a series of learning to muscle what seemed like was unthinkable or doing what was unthinkable. For most of my consulting career, I would be given these assignments, and it felt a lot of times like, especially when I was much younger and I didn't really know much of anything professionally, I had to kind of wing it a lot of times, so to speak. And I'd be put into these environments where I just kind of like almost like a Navy SEAL, I'd be jumped in to this whole scenario and have to just learn how to swim. So I guess resiliency has been a central theme in all of it. But then with that resiliency, going back to what I had said, to have some grace for yourself is everything. because it's about recovery. It's like having some humility to kind of be able to laugh at yourself and get off it and kind of go on from there, even in the hardest times. Yeah.
Is that so?
Hmm.
I mean, is that something that you learned or something that was given to you? Like, is this something that, like, I don't
Well,
know.
I mean, in one regard, I don't know if if I was innately born with it, but I think at a very early age, through life's situations and circumstances and upbringing and things like that, I learned about resiliency and in a sense of self-sufficiency. At a very early age, I learned about that not every experience is the same through, I guess, the grace of being able to travel at an early age and go to Europe and things like that at a much earlier age than most kids. Um, I just learned that that everything was not one shade. That life is big and it's complex and it's juicy, and people, I think, are inherently very similar, that there's core things that are inside of everybody, that I really believe that everybody wants to belong. Not everybody has the ability to have that experience. So everybody wants to belong, but yet they remain separate for whatever reasons, experiences, fears, life, and all that. But inherently, I think people have that common thread. Um, and then there's life circumstances and all the things that keep us safe and have us stay in our own box, so to speak, because it's familiar and it's comfortable. But there's also a familiarity, if you can say that, well, if this is this way, but I can look at it and maybe do it another way, that you can build a different kind of muscle about taking risks and experiencing life. But it takes a willingness to wonder and question everything, everything that you know, everything you believe on a continual basis. While, like I said earlier, having some room for yourself to be yourself. It's not about you should be somebody else. Now, I think being yourself, whatever that is, being true to oneself is the highest form of integrity. It's just finding out what that oneself is for oneself,
That's the lifelong process.
so to speak. Yes.
Yeah.
I also
Hmm.
think, and one of the things that I've learned is that in appreciating my own thinking, the way I am and who I am, that my own beliefs are not necessarily truths. They're not absolutes. They're a way of seeing things. And if they work for me, good. And if I can make a difference with somebody else and it's good for them too, great. But it's a big world. People are fine the way they are. And if I could give anybody one gift, it's just their ability to be who they are and have some, like I said earlier, some compassion for their own humanity, for their own self.
That's all there is, right? That's the most important thing that we could thrive for is just accept ourselves. So we
Yes.
stop fighting against ourselves. So we can
Yes.
we can actually become or become who we're meant to be and do what we're meant to do
Yes.
in a way, right?
And it
And
also gives you the room to allow others to be themselves.
yeah,
And the more you model it, the more space they have to do it, right? Like when you're modeling that behavior to people, they're like, "Ooh, I want some of that too," right? And so you can create those ripple effects then inside of
Yeah.
just holding that space. Like
Yeah.
truly, that's all you ever have to do. There's no work to be done. You just have to
No,
be.
uh, uh,
and
this goes back. I know we've been jumping around quite a bit. It's like 15 conversations at one time. But going back to what I was talking about earlier about relationships being essential, is there are a lot of times where I've forgotten in life who I am or what I stand for or what I believe or what I value or my own greatness. And it's in my relationship with others that have reminded me over time just who I am and what I value and what's important, and the difference that I've made for others, that kind of re-grounds you or reconnects you, so to speak, to all that.
That's that's just that, right? That's part of. I shared at one point, not on this on the women's podcast, that I was traveling to Switzerland to clean up uh my dad's apartment after he passed with my
Yes.
siblings. And before I did that, I asked my friends to just record a brief message to tell me who I am in case I forget. And it's just that, right? That's the foundation. So we get to remember who we are. And the other thing I want to say is that they found out that authenticity is actually the highest vibration. They always said it was love, but it's actually authenticity has a higher vibration than love. The only thing with authenticity is you cannot decide to be authentic. You either are authentic or you're not, because if you're
Yes.
trying to be authentic, you're not authentic,
Yes.
right? Yeah.
Well, a lot of that, I think, I have done a lot of, like I had mentioned earlier, a lot of really technical deep dives into my own anthology of thinking, so to speak. And in doing that work, the thing that always seemed to have the highest resonance for me, or the thing that, if you could say, if you looked at something foundationally being at the top of the sphere, so to speak, or whatever, or the spectrum, the thing that was most essential is at the core who I am is being at home.
Mm.
So when I'm at home, like at home with myself, at home with myself in relationship to others, and I'm around people that are generating and creating an experience of me feeling at home. There again, people want to belong, but yet they remain separate. They want to belong, but yet life's past and fears and concerns are always lurking in the background, so to
Yeah,
speak. But when I'm at home, I have a sense that I am whole, I belong, and I can make a difference with the people that are around me. So it's a self-created and generated act. It's something that somebody has to want to believe in and take on.
It's a
Um,
choice.
it's a,
It's a
it's a
choice.
choice, because life is going to throw at you every single moment what it does. And to ground yourself in what you value and what's important and who you are, and have a sense of self, and being at home allows you to make a difference in unforeseen ways.
absolutely. Um, a lot of boundary work, right? So like the clearer you are with your boundaries,
Yeah,
you can be at home anywhere, right? Like you're on vacation.
absolutely.
As long as my
Absolutely.
boundaries here,
Absolutely.
and we're all energy, right? And so just spending some time to clear your energy, clear your home, clear your car, clear
All
your
of it.
workspace of
Yeah.
dirty energy. Those are easy things for anyone to learn, and there's simple
Yes.
places to
Yeah.
start.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
but
know,
but
here we go.
but if you're at home with yourself, like if you're really at home, I'm not sure you need boundaries. And I'm
No, but
not like I don't
but you
know.
can create home anywhere then once the clearer you are with your boundaries, is what I'm saying.
I think you're both saying the same thing. You're both saying the same thing in two different ways. And there's two movies going on here, three movies with me. But
Yeah,
we're all on the same page in
we
that
are.
if you are at home with yourself, and you know who you are and what's important and what matters, then you can create the boundaries that are needed to be able to do that. And no boundaries are needed if you're at home with yourself.
Yes.
It's kind of a duh is that's the way it is. You're just like that. And listen, I've done a lot of work early on in my consulting career in the area of alignment. So if a car is going down the road and its tires are all perfect and everything's all in full alignment, that's great. But sooner or later, you're going to hit a rock or a bump, and things are going to get out of alignment. And then so the car could say to itself, "Oh, what a bad car I am. I'm out of alignment. Why aren't I? I'm not feeling good today. Things aren't working out for me. And there was a pothole in the road and I never saw that coming and I should have looked or whatever, you know." But like human beings the same way, things happen and we get out of whack.
Yes.
And to have some room and grace for yourself and say, "You know what? I messed up. I did something stupid." Or, "You know what? Life hit me in a way," or "I was betrayed," or whatever
Or
life,
life got really busy and I have not been responsible for taking
all of
care
it,
of my
all of it,
sacred space, right? Like,
right.
yeah.
So it goes back to what I was saying earlier, at the core self, having some room for yourself. We're all our own greatest judges and jurors. Nobody could ever be as self-critical about me as I am. And the same applies to each and every person in the world. No matter how much people go through, they're really toughest on themselves. The only thing that they forget is that's an invented way of seeing themselves. At a moment in time, something happened or whatever, or there's a series of experiences and occurrences, and you make up that's the way it is. So to, kind of be able to take a breath and have some room and kind of give yourself a break. I think that's the thing most people need in the day to day, whether they're parents or they're, you know, in their jobs or families or whatever, to just have some room for yourself.
Yeah.
Okay to be even shitty and when you're shitty. If you
Yeah.
got to clean it up or whatever, do whatever you got to do, but not like take that and then internalize it and, make yourself some kind of,
Yeah.
martyr for victimhood or something, it's just have some,
Yeah, it's
have some,
like the always do your best, and your best right now is not your best in 5 minutes, and it's
yeah,
not your best
yeah,
of yesterday, and maybe
yeah.
shitty is your best you get to do today, right? Or in this moment, right? And then you go and clean it up.
So, inside of that, I think it's important if one's having this relationship with themselves to have a sense of what they value and what their purpose is. Um, my father lived to his late 90s and he worked a good part of that time. Now, he didn't really work, but he kind of worked. And the reason he worked wasn't for money, it was for purpose.
Mhm.
He used to talk about all of his friends, how they would, retire and go off, and, 6 months later, they would be dead, or their spouse would die 6 months later, or whatever the case is. A lot of times people have children to create purpose, and then those children grow up, and then all of a sudden, that purpose is no longer the same purpose, and there are divorces and other things happen. So I think this part of the secret of life, in addition to having the sense of self love, appreciating life's moments, is to live a life of purpose. It doesn't matter what that purpose is, but just that you're connected to who you are and what matters to you and what you value. So there.
Yeah. And your purpose can change as you go along.
Yeah, the movie changes.
Yeah,
Whether you
absolutely.
like it or not, it changes. Like I said earlier, life is perpetually changing. It comes at you one way or the other. So,
Absolutely.
like
Yeah.
having
And
a
then there's the
sense,
next plot twist, and there's the next plot twist.
but it's your movie. It's nobody else's,
Mm-hmm.
you
So,
know?
Joe, what would you say your superpower is?
Well, I mentioned a little bit of it earlier was around resilience and malleability, but I think at the core of it, I don't know about anybody else, but what has gotten me to where I am is that I've always had a sense that anything was possible, and
Mm-hmm.
that at the heart of it, I love people. It doesn't always show up like that every moment of every day of every month or every year. But at the heart of it, my superpower is really that I'm know that anything can change in a minute of time and anything is possible. And inherently, I love love. I love love. That's not a cool thing for a man to say, but I got to tell you, that's at the heart of it. I really do love love. I love loving. I love relationships. I love being in love. I love loving others. And I know when I'm not doing that, I'm out of alignment.
Mm.
When I'm being crabby or shitty or nasty or whatever, or exhausted or whatever, that somewheres I'm out of alignment. So the name of the game in the game of resilience is to figure out where I went off track and what I need to do to restore myself to my core. Um, so jumping around, but we're not, the secret power has everything to do with wonder and wonderment or discovery. When you're really little, anything and everything is possible.
Yep.
And then life systematically beats possibility out of you. So it takes a real commitment to be hungry, to want to challenge one's own personal beliefs and assumptions. It takes courage to wonder and discover again. I've said for many years, I don't want to, as I get older, I want to get younger. I want to know less. My goal, and I don't usually say this publicly, but is to, as I grow older, to have the heart and wisdom and soul of maybe like a 6-year-old or an 8-year-old that just can be with pure possibility and that anything is possible and that there's, the world's okay.
And
It's,
everyone's your friend and you want to play with them all.
yeah,
Yeah.
all that. It's a
So
big challenge. I don't know I'll ever get there in one's lifetime all the way back to that stage, but it is a commitment. It's a commitment to have an open heart and wonder about what I don't know that I don't know, so to speak. Um, and one of the things that's really helped me in that over the last several years has been this whole area of travel and discovery and all that. But even more so, I've spent a lot of time coming out of this outdoor industry, this overland industry, this off-road vehicle industry, really going to some very uniquely remote places that are magical and wonderful. And when you're out in the middle of really, when I mean really out in the middle of no place, there's nobody for 200-300 miles. And you're up in a mountain pass, and the only thing there is nature itself and everything else. It just humbles you to the ground. It connects you, but it also has you see how minuscule you really are and how all that chatter and all that noise inside your head really doesn't make a difference. Try to stop a lightning storm from happening. So, just having an opportunity to really put myself in an environment where I can get away and question and wonder things and discover things and explore the world is probably been one of the greatest gifts. No, anyhow, all over the map there, but nevertheless, thank you.
No worries, no worries. It's all good. And like the word that I keep hearing is humility.
Mhm.
That's the word that I keep hearing for you. It's like in everything you say, there's a humility. There's not as an I'm less than, but as an act of love, humility.
like how lucky I am to participate in this, right? Like that's kind of how I hear
Yeah,
it.
it's beautiful. It's beautiful. So, how do you recharge your batteries, Judd?
Well, been kind of sharing about it in a lot of different ways, but just putting myself one in other environments, whether it's travel or more recently the adventures that I've been having here in the Pacific Northwest. I'm within a half an hour, and then I can go from there, of the most magnificent, majestic waterfalls and canyons and things of that nature and rivers and these magnificent pine forests that have these towering trees all around me. And I recently became a puppy now dog owner again. I have a Aussie, and a little bulldog too, a French bulldog both. And I uh, just go out and explore life. I get out into these really majestic areas and take off my shoes and put my feet in the water and kind of sometimes dance and sing and celebrate life with my, friends and all those around me. So yeah, that's one way.
Sounds
And music, I guess
delicious.
too, I've it's probably been a lifelong thing, but I just love concerts and going to outdoor festivals and just being in any kind of environment where I could people watch. I think that's another way that I restore my battery. For some people, it's not that way. It's like people are overwhelming and they had enough and all that. And, I get like that too when I do. But I love putting myself in unusual environments and just taking in the diversity of life, you know. It, all of it. And I think it's particularly true having lived out here in the West because, having lived most of my life in urban centers and urban areas and things like that, I've really been fortunate to be embraced by some really rural communities and things like that and live a little bit more of the cowboy life, so to speak, and things where it's like I feel like I'm an undercover city person or something like that. Not taken too well in certain areas. And I, well, I'll just say it, trying to filter myself here. I have a beautiful, I have a Ford Bronco. It's one of those lifted trucks and stuff like that. It's really cool. And I can go off-road and go places and all that. But I had a choice between getting a California license plate or a Nevada license plate initially. Because I had my business in California and part of it in Nevada. I took the Nevada license plate because you're less judged out in rural America. Californians aren't taken too well in places like Idaho and Wyoming and other parts of the West. So anyhow, but I think the thing about that conversation in studying people and using that to recharge my battery goes back to what I was saying earlier. People are inherently the same. We live in this polarized time where you have Republicans and Democrats and liberals and conservatives and people that believe this and believe that and all that. And if you really strip away all that overall, and even including the assholes in life, people, like I said earlier, are inherently the same and they want to belong, but yet they remain separate. So what I've really found, particularly in the last 5 years of being in some very remote areas, is people really aren't that different. They're
Yeah.
really not. They got their stuff and they got their beliefs and they got all that kind of stuff, but at the core of core, overall, people really want the same things.
Mm-hmm. It's so true. All right, Judd, last question. What is the legacy you want to leave? What do you want people to remember about you?
Well, I had an answer, and my answer was when the legacy I wanted to leave was that people are find themselves and good with themselves. But I think if there was a legacy, personal legacy, is that I made the world a better place and I allowed people the opportunity to experience how great it can be.
Mm.
And you did. And I know your life is not over, but you did.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you for choosing to play with us today and
Yeah.
let us celebrate you because you are truly extraordinary.
Hmm. I'm being with that because really I just want to cry right now, joyful tears, and then get off here and go. But no, I'm just being with it while we're still on screen. So thank you.
Yeah. So Judd, are you doing coaching these days? Do you want to talk about any businesses that you're doing right now?
Yeah, well, I actually am. I'm gonna leave the names out, but I'm working with a couple outdoor companies. One is in this overland space, that's a whole industry. Not to throw a word around, but an overland industry is a kind of combination of camping and really remote travels and living and stuff like that. It's a very big industry. It's kind of the outdoor industry meets the RV industry. So I'm working with a national manufacturer, and their business is growing extraordinarily quickly. More and more people have chosen, particularly post-pandemic or with the pandemic, to get how important life is and get into the outdoors and stuff like that. So their business is growing exponentially and at a very fast rate. And then I'm working with a company that's up in Montana that is building a national outdoor retreat, so to speak. So it's being a little coy about it and stuff like that. But they're looking at doing strategic retreats for corporations and stuff like that to have people get away.
So we'll have to stay tuned for more.
Thank you.
Judd, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Welcome.
Um, and everyone else, thank you for listening. If you loved what you heard today, please leave us a review, please share with your friends, and please remember that you are extraordinary and you rock. Have a wonderful day.
Thank
Martina.
you.
Bye for now.